This podcast is a member of WGPRN, WildGamesProductions.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Welcome to the Roll for Initiative podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Roll for Initiative podcast, Volume 3, Issue 120. I am not DM Vince, and I am not alongside DM Nick. You see, Vince's car unfortunately failed at saving throw versus death, and Nick is out doing family stuff, so that leaves me here by myself. But not really, because I'm also joined by two very special guests. First, one is a voice you actually hear on the podcast quite frequently for him not being a host, DM Kojo.
How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's good to have you. And then we also have another guest as well that's been on the podcast, Brian, Devan Magazine. How's it going, Brian?
I can't complain. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys. And yep, we got a good show lined up where we're actually going to talk about a adventure for first edition AD&D written within the past year, believe it or not, by Wizards of the Coast. But before we get into that, DM Kojo, so how's your week in gaming been?
Oh, actually, we just had my game last night that we play every other week. It's a 2E game, but we're running them through the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh.
Nice. And
it was the second session in the haunted house, and yeah, good time was had by all. They had a save or die opportunity by my party's ranger. He decided to attack a moldy cloak with his sword. I don't quite know what's going on with that, but the yellow mold got him. Lucky for him, the party had an elixir of health in reserve to bring him back from death. But yeah, it was a little dicey there for a while. But they've finished exploring the haunted house and are now getting ready to move on to actually with the smugglers. So it was a good session.
Sweet. And hopefully they also learned a very important life lesson when in regards to mold.
Yeah. Yeah, leave it lie, that's for sure. So that was good. And then I think we're also going to, in our off days, going to maybe take up a Dungeon Crawl Classics game, which I've never played before, so I'm excited to try that out.
I see DM Jim's roped you into it as well.
Indeed, the Spellburn podcast has been a great resource, and their evangelizing of it made me take interest. So it looks like a good game.
Yeah, if I didn't have commitments every Saturday night when they game at the local game store here in Cincinnati, I'd be joining the group. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work out schedule-wise. But I'm sure at some point I'm going to check out the game with my home group. So Brian, what's new with And Magazine?
We're wrapping up issue 6. We're going to be publishing, if all goes well, in probably about a week and a half or 2 weeks. We're in final layout, got all of our material in place, just doing last-minute cleanup. And there's always something. It doesn't matter how many times we look at anything. Someone goes through it one more time, and we find silly stuff that we missed the first time. So things are going good there. We just added a new editor, Ian. He joined us in the last week. He's a frequent poster on both OSR Gaming and Dragon's Foot. Goes by Ulan Dor. A lot of people who look through the workshop will find his stuff because he produces an amazing amount of stuff. And he's a good editor. He's actually a professional editor, so that's a nice addition to our team. And we're looking to add some more positions. One of the things we're looking to do is we need a webmaster. Our current site was put together early on, and it functioned, but we need something new. We've outgrown it, so we're looking for someone to put together a website for us, and either the same person or another person to do minor maintenance as we go, posting weekly updates and things of that nature. We're also looking for a media director. There's just an amazing amount of stuff out there on the internet. places to go and see, places to advertise, people that have never heard of us. And we need someone to do a mixture of web searches and publicity. And we're always looking for more editors. We find that we literally can't have too many good editors. One of the things we're looking at doing is spinning off, and I say spinning off, another team to work on publications outside of the magazine. In 15 months, we published 5 issues of AND Magazine and 4 supplements. I was going to add up the number of pages we've done, and I forgot to do that, but it's somewhere probably on the order of 500 pages of D&D material. And the new issue coming out, we're up to 90, I think it's going to be 96 pages. Just an amazing amount of stuff. And we can't effectively do the supplements along with the magazine, so we're looking to have another team to work side by side to publish that material.
Awesome. It just sounds like you guys are just growing exponentially, it seems.
Hopefully it's not exponentially. I don't want us to grow so fast that we can't control what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we're definitely, we've got a good sustained growth. We've got good material. And again, we're always looking for people to submit articles, monsters, spells. Every theme or every issue is themed. So if someone's got an article that fits that theme, send it in. And if you got an article that doesn't fit the theme, send it in anyways, because we do, our goal is a minimum of 60% of material in an issue fits the theme, which gives us as much as 40% that doesn't. So we've got room for pretty much everything.
Well, and you guys do some real quality stuff. I should mention that last night in my game, I actually introduced some of the miscellaneous spells from your reference into my campaign through a randomly placed scroll. And the players were so excited to hear spells they'd never heard of before that they can't wait to start digging into those.
That is cool. Again, one of the things we look at, again, I've been gaming since 1983. It makes 30 years. That's scary. And the problem is after you play a while, especially if you play with other people who DM, is everybody knows everything. And it's just so hard to make things fresh and new and exciting. You think back to when you first started. I mean, I remember I didn't know anything. And it didn't matter what we ran into. It was cool. It was scary. And after you've been playing for even a year or two, that gets harder and harder to do. So, we're pulling in from across the internet, producing new stuff, so DMs out there can keep their games fresh and new and exciting.
Right. You still have that old school feel, the old school flavor, but it's still new, and it helps capture that wonderment everyone had the first time they picked up AD&D and the first time they went through a dungeon and saw the trolls, the orcs, the kobolds, all of that. So it's a great way to just actually take you back in time. Whereas if you run a lot of the published adventures, yeah, it's great for a nostalgia kick, but you don't have that same wonder, that the same newness, the freshness that you did the first time around.
And when I think old school, I mean, a lot of people look at the material, but the material isn't it. It's the mindset.
Right.
It's, and I'm not sure who I'm quoting on this. It's not what trick do you want to play, but what do you want to do? And, the DM just figures out, okay, what's the chances of it happening? And there's no limits. Someone wants to climb a wall in full plate armor, well, go for it. The percentage chance isn't going to be all that high, but hey, maybe you get lucky.
Right. Yeah, it's not as much. With a lot of games today, there seems to be a heavy influence on mathematics and everything being balanced or having a certain expectations of character stats and abilities. Whereas in old school gaming, yes, stats mattered, but it was more about the player playing the character that affected the story than the raw numbers and character sheet information. It was the player that drove the story, not the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, it's totally true.
More like chess than Monopoly.
Right.
Where your skill in what you're doing makes more of a difference, although, again, the dice giveth and the dice taketh away.
Yes, the dice gods can be very, very fickle at times, or they can be very forgiving. I've had some just amazing things happen where I'm like, okay, your dice are way too hot, and I'm going to have to let these ridiculous things happen in your favor just because. It's just too cool not to let it happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's another thing with quote unquote old school gaming is the rule of cool. If it's cool enough, it's like, what the heck, let it happen.
Right. It's like, does this sound fun? Is everyone at the table going to enjoy the game? If this happens, let it happen. Have fun with it. Because that's the point of these games, is to have fun. It's not to number crunch and try to make the most uber-powered character. It's about sit around with your friends and have fun telling a story.
Yeah, I think we have the most fun at our table when we are kind of off the beaten path as far as the rules go. We're just winging it, and somebody comes up with something crazy, and I say, sure, roll some dice and let's do it. And more often than not, that's when we're having the biggest fun, laughing our heads off.
Right. And that's something I think if you can bring into any system. It's that aspect is system agnostic, and players and DMs just need to embrace it no matter what edition they play, and I think they'll have a far more enjoyable experience.
Agreed.
Yeah. And as for me, I actually this past Friday had the privilege of gaming with Jim Wampler and Tim Kask in person finally, even though we've cohabitated the same city for years.
Awesome.
Yeah, we
Wow.
Yeah, we met up at our friendly local game store and played Kenzer Company's The Great Space Race. It's basically Circus Maximus with spaceships, space amoebas, and landmines, or space mines. You and the other players play the 6 lowliest backwater inbred races of aliens in the known universe. And you're having a race. The winner of this race not only wins the race, they also ensure their entire planet doesn't get obliterated, because the 5 losers of the race get exterminated. And it was lots of fun. There was some issues with the rules out of the box, as in it was missing some of the parts, so you had to go online and print them. It didn't actually have all the markers. And there was some major errata that if you just read the book, the rule book, you would be like, this doesn't make sense. So if you end up with a copy of the game, make sure you go and download the errata online. Yeah, it was totally great meeting Tim and Jim for the first time, so and gaming with them. So it was good times, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again in the near future. And then while Vince may be having car issues, he did get some good news this week, however. His retro clone, Mazes and Perils, was actually nominated for an ENnie Award. It was nominated for the ENnie for Best Free Game Supplement. So, coming this week, the voting will be available for the ENnie Awards. So we all encourage you to vote, and vote often, as DM Jason would do, because we want to get a ENnie Award here in Wild Game Productions, and this is our first opportunity, so I say we take advantage of it. So we need everyone to unite and start voting for the ENnie for Mazes and Perils.
Cool.
Yes, very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I know. What's great about this is normally you submit your own stuff to be considered for an ENnie Award. In this case, Vince didn't submit it. We're not actually sure who submitted Mazes and Perils to be considered for an ENnie Award. So the fact that someone else felt it was worthy of being nominated and it actually got selected into the final 5 is just absolutely mind-blowing and just totally cool.
No, that's high praise for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I mean, Vince put a lot of hard work into that product and just organizing everything and with the layout. And despite some little snafus at the beginning, it turned out into something really good. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll be able to get the ENnie Award come Gen Con.
No, that'd be nice.
Yes. And now we will go into table manners, and as we talk about the module, the adventure from Dungeon Magazine 215, The Last Slave Lord.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I'd like to find one with table manners.
What are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
And now we are in Table Manners, and we are actually going to talk about a module that builds upon the A series. This is actually, like, you could consider like an A5 if you want, but it's not really quite a full adventure out of Dungeon Magazine 215. Yes, I know what some of you old school people are thinking. There is no Dungeon Magazine 215. Well, when DDO happened, they still actually kept making Dungeon Magazine. It was just online only. So this is actually online only, so you're not going to find a print copy on yourself. But that said, they're actually putting first edition product in it, so it's actually worth us taking a look at. This module picks up where the Slave Lord series left off. The players went in, they vanquished the slavers, and they think all is well, but then they start hearing rumors that one of the slave lords is still alive, and now they must go hunt them down to make sure the threat of the slavers is gone once and for all. So let's just give some initial impressions on it. So what did you guys think of this module?
Well, I enjoyed it. First of all, I'm excited that first edition work is making its way back out there. I think that Wizards of the Coast has finally seen that there is a market for people that still want to buy first edition stuff. And you see that with the reprints and the A series reprint containing a new A0 module, which is also quite good. If you haven't checked that out, you definitely should. But it's exciting because hopefully there are more first edition things coming out in the future because, they're seeing that this community is growing and definitely a untapped market for them. So that's refreshing.
Yeah, it came across as extremely refreshing. And what I did the first time is I just, breezed through it, just trying to get initial impressions. And overall, it's put together well. It's well written. They've got a lot of, I don't want to get into details right now because we're going to get into that a little bit later, but they've got good information and ideas on how to integrate this into a campaign, how to go alternate tracks. Okay, so you don't want to do A, so you can do B, or if you're building off of A4, what happens if different major NPCs survived, how you can change it. And I thought the organization for sliding into this was extremely well thought out.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot that you can take this adventure in many different directions, depending on if you ran through the A series, what happened in your own campaign. Did a certain person die? Okay, then you can do this. If they escaped, you can do this. I mean, it helps build upon the existing story, and that is great. And it doesn't have a lot of detail, like minute detail that doesn't really add to it. It lets you flesh those parts out on your own to make it your own adventure. So that way, no two DMs will run it exactly the same because it has enough flexibility in it. It doesn't have that rigid feel that some of the newer modules may have. It actually does a very good job, I think, of capturing that old school feel, flavor, and even layout when compared to some of the older modules.
Yeah, I like the layout quite a bit too. I agree with you. I personally like box text. I know not everybody does, but I quite often write out my own box text for my adventures just so I've got something to go off of. So I like that. And, the monster blocks, in the old format, so yeah, it definitely has the feel of a old 1E module.
Right. Yeah, I like the box text in a module. I don't run a lot of modules, and when I do, I don't necessarily use the box text, but it gives me ideas. And the one thing we always got to keep in mind when we're doing like a commercial dungeon or something that's being published is not everybody's got the same skills, and some people just can't pull stuff out of the air and throw it out there. So when we give them that box text, it gives people who don't have that skill the ability to work. And if you don't need it, just ignore it. It's not a big deal.
Right. And it also just gives you, the DM, that extra little bit of information as to what the players are seeing. So that way they can put it into their own words and they know these are the points that need to be hit on to keep the adventure flowing. So, yeah, because I really don't use box text myself, but I will take the information in the box text and make sure the players get that information one way or another. Yeah, for me, they're kind of like the little cliff notes of make sure the players walk away with this information in this section. Yeah. And the adventure itself is actually, I would really say there's two parts to it. When the players at the beginning... hello, and child in the background.
That's my 2-year-old. Sorry
Awesome.
about that.
Oh, no worries, no worries. And
that's the next gaming generation.
Exactly.
That's right.
You're continuing on the gaming population, so you're doing your job well.
Yeah, my kids are 7, 5, and 2, so we're working up to that.
Oh yeah, it won't be too long before you'll have yourself a whole little built-in gaming group.
Exactly.
That's what I have. My boys are 15 and 17, although our group is going to get fragmented because my oldest goes to college in a little less than a month.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't quite taught my cats how to roll dice yet. So I think we're still a little ways off from me having the built-in home game group.
Well, if you put a belt inside the D20, they'll roll them all over the place.
Yeah. Well, they won't stop rolling them is the problem.
That would be a problem.
Yeah. But this adventure, I mean, there's really two main parts. There's the players receiving the tip from one of the NPCs they actually met in the Slave Lord series, the spy that was dressed as a beggar. They meet this NPC again, and it tips them off that one of the slave lords may have escaped to this monastery. So at that point, the players then travel to the monastery to investigate to see if these rumors are actually true. And the first part of the adventure is just getting there, because this monastery isn't in the nicest of areas. You could say it's actually rather treacherous. The waters are shallow for large ships, and it's a nice stony beach. And then once they get there, there's all kinds of monsters, pirates, and to deal with. So the journey in this case is actually part of the adventure.
Well, I like the setting, the way the imagery of this monastery up on a cliff face, and, it's really described well in the adventure, and you really kind of got my creative juices flowing about how to make it kind of creepy and eerie.
Right, yeah, because it's this abandoned monastery. So that was actually the cult of the Brotherhood was basically enlisted to keep this monastery for the slavers. The monastery of the Toiling Lady that was built 3 centuries ago. So it's going to be overrun. There's going to be quite a bit of just natural issues to deal with that they wouldn't necessarily have to deal with if it was actually an upkept monastery.
Now, the picture on page 31, the first page of the module, it gives you really great imagery because you've got the cliff, you've got what looks like old buildings
right
up on the side of the cliff, a couple of wyverns or some other type of flying creature in the foreground. But, again, as a DM, you need to go into these things inspired, and when I look at that, I get ideas without seeing any details.
Right. I'm just envisioning the players, they're on their ship, and they come and just describing this monastery on this cliffside, falling apart, rotting, and them approaching it. You got storm in the background. You see wyverns flying overhead, and it would just give this this is a really eerie place. And even if this slaver issue isn't real, there's something here, because this type of place just doesn't exist for no reason. So yeah, it has a great setting to it, and then once you get there, you still have to scale this cliff, and there's all types of random encounters of things you could be coming across, because while the monastery is abandoned, quote unquote, the island isn't. There's all kinds of things. You have your 2 different sets of random encounter tables, one for daytime, one for nighttime, and they're all actually kind of nasty. When you're just trekking up and all of a sudden 2 Wyrens come down hunting for food, and they determine you're the food. Or you have your pirates, you have assassins roaming around, wasp, more of that just the natural environment taking back over, and be like, we need to get rid of these people. So the wasp will bother you. There's crabmen there that are foraging. There's Dakans. I mean, then at night is when it gets really nasty. That's when the Grimlocks and Gibberlings and Trolls and Umberhulks come out. And then it is a monastery, so of course there's also going to be ghosts. So there's...
Yeah, one of the real strengths, I think, of this adventure is that it has, for one, a lot of monsters that you haven't seen in previously published adventures, at least in the mainstream ones. Things I had to even go up and look up in some cases in like the Fiend Folio,
Right.
that monsters I'd never used or in some cases never heard of. But I like that it's not just kind of randomly thrown in there. Like there is a story that the author gives you for why are the Grimlocks there, and why are the slavers there, and why are all the undead that we're probably going to talk about later there. And so they've all got their own elements of, and it's kind of this weird ecology going on where they're all at odds, but they're all kind of carved out their niche in this monastery. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's everything actually makes sense, unlike some modules where you could tell the author just thought this monster was cool and let's throw it in. Everything has a reason. It actually helps build the story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like the fact that they pulled out, as Kojo said, they pulled out some monsters. I see Sioux monster. Okay, what the heck is a Sioux monster? I know I've seen that before, and I had to look it up in the monster manual, and I've never used one before.
Right. This will be there's a lot in this module that your old time player, they may not. Something will trigger that. Oh, I remember that, but they won't remember it so well that they'll start metagaming with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like early on, then you run into, I think it's pronounced the Seaful, which is from the Fiend Folio. Is the colony of insects that come together and form like this sentient mass. And I'd never heard of that monster. I mean, I'm sure I read it once upon a time, but it's not something you're just going to come across in everyday adventures. So you're right. The metagaming kind of gets circumvented when you have creatures like that aren't as well known.
Right. So in the island itself is very treacherous, but the monastery itself has been sealed up enough by the Scarlet Brotherhood cult that none of these wandering monsters are able to actually get in. None of these outside forces actually make it into the monastery. So the players can kind of get a break from the issues of all this, the wasp, crabmen, bats, ghosts, and whatnot on the outside, provided they remember to close the door to the monastery once they get in. I like that little touch. If you forget to close the door, you now have to start taking into account these creatures from the outside will actually come in. And then once the players get in, they have a nice actual map on... Oh, I went past it. It is on page...
35?
35, yes.
Yep.
As my mouse refuses to cooperate. On page 35, it's got a nice little layout, so you can see where the path leading up to the monastery is from the rocky beach, and then you can just see how massive this complex is. I mean, there's lots to explore, and it actually does kind of have that good old dungeon crawl feel to it. As you get to trek through the various rooms, and there's a little bit of everything in it, as opposed to just one type of, oh, it's nothing but filled with undead, or, oh, it's nothing but evil clerics. No, it's a little of everything.
One thing I liked about the map is it's multi-threaded. You can go in different paths through this. There's a lot of doors, so the players can make their own way through it, and it also means other stuff can come up behind them. So the players have got to keep their eyes open. On screen, the map is really cool. The other thing I don't like about it is these more modern maps with all the color are fairly expensive to print on an inkjet printer.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You got through a lot of ink, so I prefer the old. As much as I like the blue maps, I like plain old black and white because black is cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually end up taking graph paper and just plotting out the maps on graph paper and just using that with my players, so it saves me a lot of time. Well, not kind of, because I have a tablet, so I'll just pull up the map of my tablet, and then as the players start advancing through, it'll be like, okay, now you see this, and I can just draw out the exact parts they see. So, but yeah.
Oh yeah, we do. Our group does the mapping. So what I have, they don't necessarily see. They get a description from me about what they're going to see. But I'm just saying, as a reference model, I don't normally play with a computer at the table. So I'm more likely to print a map, so I have it as a reference inside my DM screens. And as much as I like these, again, you print a few of these, and you look at the monitor for your ink, and it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
that was a $12 map.
Yeah. Yeah, that cost could add up pretty quick. Especially like if you were to print this module out, the charts are in color, the headings are in color, has a nice border to it. So yeah, just printing this out would be a little on the costly side. But that's why I have an Asus Transformer tablet, and for PDF only products, I live and die by that thing. It's just so handy.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting one of them.
Yeah, I highly recommend it, and get the dock. The dock is great. Doubles your battery life. You actually get a real keyboard and touchpad.
Oh.
Yeah, the dock runs like $150, and it also gives you an SD card slot and USB port, so you can actually hook a mouse up to it.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say pads are nice, but I'm a touch typist, and it doesn't work too well with like an iPad or something.
Right, yeah. The Asus Transformer actually turns into a netbook quite nicely once you get the dock.
Oh. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind as I start looking at them.
Yep. Yeah, so the players, they travel up this path, and then they get to the yard. There's rubble strewn everywhere, and just because it's outside this monastery that is falling apart, and then you just go through, and they'll start seeing tracks of humanoid creatures, which is all the assassins and pirates and everything that's roaming this land. And then there's also a shrine around the entrance that they dug into a mountain, because this monastery was actually built on a mine. And the slavers would actually use that and send people down there. And it also talks about, in case your players decide, hey, let's explore the mine, just to keep throwing lots and lots of neophyte Ugyuks and Grimlocks at them. So that way they realized we probably shouldn't go down the mine, because it really doesn't build upon the mine at all in the adventure.
Although you certainly could, if you wanted to, ahead of time, flesh something out for that. It certainly could take them off in a different direction. I could see exploring the Grimlock mines as a fun kind of thing, side adventure.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that too, because then you could throw all kinds of what was going on before the Scarlet Brotherhood took over? What was when the monastery was originally built into the mine? And there's all types of other stories you could tell as well.
Right. I know my players would be like, why do you give us this opportunity to get down in the mine, and then you're going to block us off with, unreasonable amounts of stuff in our way. So
right.
I'd probably, if I was going to run this, have at least like the beginning fleshed out of the Grimlock mines if they decide they wanted to go down there, so that we could kind of carry that through, and maybe have it somehow connect back up to some other part here on the monastery or the other side or something, so it kind of a detour, but not a complete sidetrack.
Right. You may even, if you just want to discourage them, start describing some mind flayers, since the Grimlocks were helped by mind flayers magic. So if they start seeing a few mind flayers down there working with the Grimlocks, that might cause them to turn back.
Yep.
That might.
Yeah, I would do things that would give the players the idea that they need, if they're going to go down in the mine, they need to be prepared for that job alone, and get them to stay on task with dealing with the slave lords, and then at a later date come on back and do the exploration.
Yep.
Don't tell them no, just say, well, we'll do this a little bit later.
Right.
You could remind them of their mission, what they were hired to do in the first place.
Right. Because the last thing any party wants to do is veer off task, then find themselves in a horrible situation, unable to complete their real job because they decide to go exploring where they shouldn't have been.
Yeah, that never happens.
No, never at all. Instead, it's almost guaranteed it will happen if they see any opportunity. Sometimes they'll make their own opportunities just to go off the rails.
Yep.
Right. Oh, no, well, I could totally see, like I said, expanding that and having that at the ready just in case.
Yeah. So once they get past the tempting cave infested with Grimlocks and possibly Mind Flayers if you choose, they come upon the entrance, and this is a door that is locked and barred for good reason, to keep all the stuff outside, and that they have to break it down to get in. And then once they're inside, there's pirates and assassins in the area guarding it. And then at this point, they're in the monastery and they get to explore, because as we pointed out earlier, there's lots of different paths. There's not one set, you go through this door, you go through this door, you go through this door. There's actually quite a few different ways you can get in.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, is it gives the players a lot of choice. I've done the adventures where you've got like a single way in, like, G3, the Fire Giants. But I like to give them multiple ways, and the smart players are going to be looking for an entrance other than the front door.
Right. Especially with this, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 different doors, or 5. There's actually 5 different ways to get in this monastery via doors, and that's not counting all the windows.
Yep.
So they could start in so many different areas of this. And if they do, it doesn't break the game. It doesn't break the adventure. And that's one of the good things about it.
Well, from my mind, anytime going the wrong way breaks the adventure is poor design.
Yeah. But I think we can all think of those modules in the past where if they went the wrong way, the game would break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Or I can't count. There was one module I recently read. It said, if the players see this before this happens, just say they don't see it. So that way when it does happen, they do. I'm like, but it's a door. Why wouldn't they notice the secret door the first time they look for it?
Yep. I was going to say, good players should break the adventure.
Right.
If they can't break the adventure, they're not good players. Yeah. Now, I do have one criticism here. I'm looking on page 39, Area 5, and they've got like 3 assassins. And my first thought is, so what? Assassins are useful when they can use some of their primary abilities, which isn't just assassination, but like disguise and spying. Other than that, they're basically just a wimpy thief.
Yeah.
So to that extent, I see it as kind of pointless to have assassins in here unless they're actually doing something where it makes sense to have assassins. And I'm looking through the text, and there's nothing to indicate. I mean, the assassins are just basically another type of pirate.
Yeah, they're all just kind of hanging out at that point.
If I was writing this, I'd have a little blurb in there that would say, okay, this person is an assassin, and they're going to try to do such and such, and leave it up to the DM to fit them in, but give the DM some ideas.
Right. Maybe
on how to make use of the abilities.
Right. Maybe the pirates, maybe it looks like the pirates are holding these people hostage or kidnap them, and they're actually assassins.
Mm-hmm.
And then the players rescue them, and like, we saved these people from becoming slaves, and next thing you know, they're backstabbing them and poisoning them.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I thought the assassins and the pirates, as they're presented as an encounter here, kind of generic. Like, there's 3 assassins. They're all 4th level. They've all got 14 hit points. I mean, that's a little too generic for my taste. I would probably, flesh them out a little bit because invariably, my party wants to capture one of them and question them, and I have to kind of be prepared for, what's their name, what's their, I mean, I don't flesh out a whole backstory on every minor NPC, but I do like to be prepared with that and have at least a separate stat block, for them. And there's adventures in the past I've had that. In fact, Saltmarsh that we're going through right now has the smugglers listed as, here's a table of all the smugglers, and, you drop them in and they're all a little bit different. So I would have liked to have seen that a little bit, but this, it does simplify it. And of course the DM can modify that as they want to.
And for this is supposed to be for 6th to 9th level.
Yeah.
9, basically 0 level pirates and 3 4th level assassins. Seems to be a pretty light encounter. But at the same time, it's a good way to, especially, if there's a battle here, the party's going to have an easy win. It's going to set an unrealistic expectation for them that the next encounter is going to be easy, which is, I like to do that with parties. Let them think it's the wrong thing.
Right. Let them get overconfident.
Yes, that's the word.
Yes, they'll think, oh, okay, we'll just be able to go through, slay everything. Then they realize, no, doesn't quite work like that. And quite frankly, not everything they come across needs to be slayed. Some of it, if they just don't poke around where they shouldn't be, it won't bother them. Because there's quite a few things, if they explore certain rooms, that if they don't start disturbing stuff, it won't bother them. But we'll get to those things as we get to them. Once they get through the entrance hall, they make their way into the stable, and then this is where the players can just start looting the room for some rope. The stables were for visitors of the monastery, so they could travel around the compound. Nothing major other than just adding some ambiance to the building, and then
Well, in the stable, they've got a chunk of rope that's in poor condition. Yeah. And I like that for role-playing, because the party says, well, we'll try it anyways. It opens up a lot of interesting possibilities.
Right. All of a sudden, they're like, yeah, the rope, it looks a little tattered, but it seems solid enough. And then they go to use it, and, uh-oh, that rope's starting to give way. Wah, wah. Should have checked it out a little closer.
Yeah. Test everything well first.
Exactly. Yeah. And then after the stables, there's the Hall of Toil. This is where the clerics use this hall to impress visitors and basically like, ooh, look at how cool we are. And then players will see some footprints leading through the southern doors and through double doors, and so just kind of hinting at, yeah, there's some other people in here besides yourself. So now it'll be a matter of seeing which way they choose. Then we have the vestry, because once you visit this monastery, everyone's expected to wear the same clothes as the clerics. And then there's a bunch of robes there. Again, this is just adding to the story of this place has been abandoned for a very long time because these robes are all mildewed and have holes, and if they start handling them, they'll start falling apart. So we're just building upon, this is an abandoned monastery, but not really.
Yeah, they set the stage very well.
Yeah. And then we hit the Room of Reflection. It has dust-covered white marble tiles and like rugs against the wall. And then there's also a fountain. In front of the stone walls, a basin 10 feet in diameter, and there's an arm hanging over the lip with fingers just above the floor. And yeah, if the players go making too much noise and poke themselves a little too close to that basin, out comes a water weird. Mm-hmm. So again, something a lot of players aren't quite going to expect.
Yeah, and I really like in the DM's notes here, it says that when they approach, the water starts to bubble and froth, as the water weirds are getting ready to come out, and it makes the the arm that's in there kind of flop around, and I can just see, describing that to the players, like, what's going on? This arm is flopping.
Right.
And it kind of throws them a little red herring there because they're thinking, what is this, undead? What's this thing in the pool? And they're not thinking about water weirds coming out at them.
Right. They're like, uh-oh, the hand's the issue, not the water itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good misdirection.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once they get past Room of Reflection, they hit the antechamber. It's where visitors came to see the high priest or priestess. It's basically a waiting room. And with that... This is where they'll also start coming across the first undead. In this waiting room, the specters and ghosts of the dead linger, and they're trapped because of the stuff that happened here. But these are undead that aren't going to bother the players. But again, they're going to have deformed faces and like cast shadows and spots just to make the players a little unease. So, just more setting the ambiance of this setting. You'll find a lot. There's like 40-some rooms, and a lot of these rooms are just building the story, building the setting, which is actually a good thing, because I think too often when you build a large complex like this, players and DMs kind of get caught in the trap of wanting to put something to do in every room, and that's just overkill. It bogs your game down. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think that's really good to have good descriptions of rooms that had a purpose, but don't have something to fight in there, or don't necessarily have, secret door in it or something. Otherwise, it's like, well, this room must have some reason we got to be in here, and then players start to expect certain encounters. But, these ghouls, again, in this well, they're, to me, again, another good example of how the author really laid the backstory well. I mean, why are the ghouls down in this well? Well, he explains how, what happened to them, how they ended up down there and became ghouls. And again, I think on surface, you see all this variety of things that the author put in this adventure. And at first glance, you think, well, maybe you're just, like you said earlier, throwing things in that are cool. But no, it all does seem to have a real purpose and a real reason for being there, and in some kind of uneasy balance.
It all makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Right. I could almost see taking this setting, and just turning it back a couple hundred years and maybe building a story off of it before it was abandoned. There's enough here, I think you could actually come up with something.
Yeah, that sounds like that'd be a good idea. Yeah. The monastery in its heyday.
Right, yeah, because there was a lot going on in its heyday. And then, so after we move from there, we go into the audience chamber. It's where the ranking clerics conduct business with outsiders, and this wing is basically where the outsiders would come and actually visit the monasteries. And then this is another one that it just describes that you can tell this room used to be very ornate, but now it's decrepit. There's insect carvings, there's termites have eaten through it, and yeah, it's just a rotted room that's saying that used to at one point be full of life. And then, so after we move from this, we're going to the Garden of Suffering. This is where the monks tended to their bees in the garden. And then although the beehives have not been used in years, though, there's still some of that sacred honey. So if players decide to play Winnie the Pooh and go into the beehive, they can actually get some of the nectar, which actually gives you some healing, 2d8 hit points. And then, but then
I like the idea with this area where everything is focused on the bees. And then you hit them with ghouls, because everyone's going to be expecting giant bees or something of that nature, right. and it's not.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's this well that's in there as well. Then everyone's going to be like, oh, there's bees, there's the beehives. That's the quote-unquote threat that's obvious. And then, of course, one player is going to want to poke and like, oh, I wonder what's in the well. And, uh-oh, here comes 8 ghouls. So, yeah, that's a nice little twist of, yeah, don't go looking where you shouldn't be looking. So, and then we from the Garden of Suffering, we go to the Chamber of Obedience. And this is where, like, a few slaves and monks and others that show disobedience were basically dealt with. And it's basically a torture room. And anyone that broke the rules or stood up to the overseers had to go here. And at this point, this room is now infested with shadows. Again, when you're dealing with a building that's dark, rotting, decrepit, just having some dark spots along the wall, players aren't going to really notice. It's going to just seem like, oh, it's another dark room. But no, those shadows are actually shadows that will attack you and drain your strength. So, again, just another little monster that's a little out of the ordinary that put the players on edge of everything in this building.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we move on to the viewing chamber. Yeah, because there was a high priestess who liked to watch the torture work, so it overlooks the this room was constructed so they could observe through peepholes the torturing commencing.
And again, there's nothing here, but it sets the ambiance.
Right. It's just more of, okay, these were just really nasty human beings that existed in this monastery, and it's just building upon that. Because we really haven't even got to the bad stuff yet. This is just setting the scene still.
Right. I mean, even though it's been, a couple hundred years since this, the monastery was functioning, you still get, when you read it and when you describe it to your players, this aura of evil, around the whole place, both current from the pirates and in the past from the monks.
Right. And then once the players continue moving on, they come to the Grand Hall, and then this is where they do have their first major combat, I would say.
Yeah, I love this. I love this area.
Yes, it's when they come in, they see 2 hill giants, 9 pirates, and 3 assassins, and they're all just scattered throughout the hall. And they are just waiting there and players to come in. And then even if the players deal with those, there's still more, because they also put some carated columns, those animated columns we've talked about in a Creature Feature many, many moons ago, to deal with as well. So, again, it's just putting the scenery, the statues you think are just innocuous, they're actually going to kill you.
Now, my criticism of the assassins earlier holds true here as well. If I was designing this, I would have the assassins, as soon as they know there's trouble, are going to try to position themselves to be able to assassinate or backstab the party members.
Yeah.
And here they're just kind of put out there as just general monsters. It'd be nice to have a little bit of description as to what type of tactics these creatures are going to use. Again, the Hill Giants, I don't expect a whole heck of a lot from them, nor the zero-level pirates, but I'd like to see a little bit more from the assassins to give the DM a little idea what they can do with them to make use of those special skills, especially since they've got longbows.
Right.
If you as the DM allow assassination via bow, yeah, that's a really, really ugly situation. Although they are 4th level versus a 6th to 9th level party, it's enough of a chance that once the party knows what's going on, once the players know what's going on, it'll give them a little bit of a negative thrill.
Right. Albeit, if you just made those take those longbows and give them some poison-tipped arrows.
Ah, yes, thank you. Excellent.
Just doing that will all of a sudden, okay, we're not worried about the arrows. Not a big deal. Then all of a sudden one player gets hit and fails that save. Uh-oh, we need to take out those guys all the way and back, and then you have to go through 9 pirates and 2 hill giants to get to them.
Yep. And a lot of times I use a poison that I don't really care for the save or die poisons. I'll use like a caustic poison where it's good for 20 points, save for 10.
Yeah.
And something like that, the party gets hit with a couple of arrows, and then all of a sudden, oops.
Yeah, I like using poisons that will start maybe sapping an ability score. So in every hour or two, they have to make another save or lose another point. So it's kind of a race against the clock. We got to cure this poison now.
Oh, I like that. I've never done that before. I wonder if to snag that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I do like about this area, this is my favorite area of the whole adventure, because on the map it's kind of wide open where there's a couple like buildings in the middle of this grand hall area, and I just kind of have vision of my party kind of running in different directions, and hill giants going one way, assassins going another way, these columns come to life and start attacking people. It just could be quite a chaotic combat encounter, but also a lot of fun, I think, to run through, because there's different factions here going on. I mean, the columns are just defending attacking anybody that gets near. So it could be very entertaining, I think. Yes.
So once they get past this grand hall, then they come to the Temple of Braum. This is Braum being the god that was worshipped by the monks and clerics in this monastery. It was in this chamber they performed their rites and prayers and ceremonies to the Lady of Toil. And then Mordramamo was a staunch devotee of the Earth Dragon, who you may remember from such modules as A3 and A4. And then when they get in, you can tell the players that someone has gone to great effort to remove the icons and symbols that were here. It's like this temple has been desecrated. There's also a 10-foot tall idol made of earth and stone that rises from a pedestal in the center of the room. And the idol is nude, depicting a rearing dragon, just laying the seeds for maybe there is a slaver here, since there's that earth dragon. And the main line at the end is, there's nothing of value here. Again, we're just setting the scenery, laying more hints that, there's something to do with the earth dragon cult and the slavers in this. And then we move on to the monk cells, where there's 2 wooden doors on the north wall that lead to the monk cells. There's 6 cells with a small shrine in them. And there's also a triglyphs standing on the small table surrounded by old dusty candles. And the 3 panels show different scenes. The left shows harvesting honey from hives. The right shows a righteous cleric calling up a sea monster to attack a ship. And the central depicts a middle-aged woman with honey blonde hair, bee wings extended out from her back, and she's holding a glowing staff in both hands. So this is just laying more scenery. Just saying that this is kind of what was happening in this monastery.
I like cells in general. They tend to lull the party because they search a cell, nothing. Search another one, nothing. And this goes on and on and on. And all of a sudden, when they're lulled into, okay, there's nothing here, they find something.
Right.
In this case, we got the haunted monk cells.
Yes, the haunted monk cells. Because if they search this cell, then they find a loose board under the bed. And in it is 2 vials and a journal. Much of it's unreadable, but the part that is readable basically says it was written by a crazy man who enjoyed torturing and suffering of others. So, and then, if they stay there a little too long after finding that journal, that's when the monk's ghost appears. So it just makes more, just building upon the story of the monastery. As we've already seen with the torture room, here's one of the monks actually really enjoyed their work. Then, of course, we have a laboratory. So for those that complain there are no bathrooms in dungeons, we have our bathroom. And if your players decide to go digging into the laboratory, there's nothing there, so let them dig around in poo all day.
That's an interesting place for something really nasty to be.
Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually, maybe some coins or something fell in there, and then make them roll save versus disease.
I like that.
Yeah, so I like that. I use laboratories and piles of poo as a reason to use the disease rules out of the DMG.
Mm-hmm.
And building upon the disease rules, the next room's the infirmary. And this is basically just a bunch of rotting beds and the cabinets just that have mortar and pestle and like old bandages and dried plants. I mean, and if the players search, they can find a few things they can use. But other than that, it's just making it a real building as opposed to a caricature of a building.
Yeah, and this is a point with some room like this where I would refer to some random table of things you might find in here. I like to just have some things because the players always want to search through stuff. What can I use? And I like to always have some list of things to fall back and say, oh, you find this vial or that or whatever. So
right, yeah. The players tend to be very scavengers, especially in rooms that seem like it has lots of miscellaneous stuff.
Right. Well, and again, I think this room and the lavatory before that are examples of the author putting stuff in this monastery that makes sense. It makes it logical. It makes it seem like, I know even when I design my own, maps and stuff, I quite often forget to put in a lavatory, but, it's not something you just off the top of your head think about, but, it makes sense because all these dungeons that, people have been making over the years and no place for people to use the restroom.
And years ago, I played with a guy. If he found a lavatory, he would have to dig there because he was positive there'd be something of use there. Ick.
Yeah. Right. Why would there be anything of use unless you needed to relieve yourself?
Or you got a garden. If you got a garden, I mean, hey, that's worth the gold.
Right. True. Very true. So once the players go through the infirmary, there's also the Templar quarters. This is basically where the assassins were sleeping. And at that point, sounds of the combat in the Great Hall will wake them. And then so you could actually cause more assassins to join the fight in the Great Hall. And then this is the room they were sleeping in. Because you'll also find out in this module that it's talking about if the players have done combat through like random encounter with groups of pirates or assassins, start cutting back on the number of assassins and pirates they find in the monastery. So it's not like there's this infinite number of pirate assassins roaming the place.
Mm-hmm. Although all the assassins seem to be in groups of 3.
Yeah. You almost want to come up with a reason for that. What would be the backstory of the assassins must travel in 3s?
I'm going to guess it's probably more, it might be copy and paste on the author's part.
Yeah.
Or just, we'll throw 3 here, 3 there, 3 the next place.
Right.
It'd be nice to vary that a little bit and also vary the levels.
Right.
And as much as the 0 level pirates are good, I'd toss in a couple. They don't have to be that high, but again, compared to 0 level, even just a couple of 1st and 2nd level fighter pirates
right.
would vary it enough and make the party wonder, okay, what am I going to run into next? It would just change things up.
Yeah, and mix it up, and it really wouldn't change the difficulty level either, because really, outside of the Grand Hall, most of these fights, the players at 6th to 9th level will be going through pretty easy.
Yep. Yeah, it seems in that respect it's awful light.
Right.
But there's nothing that says that we can scale things up.
Right. I may even start small, and if the players are having too easy a time, just start scaling it up as they go instead of so.
Easy enough to roll up some fighters.
Definitely.
Just keep the stats the same, add more hit points, and roll them on a different table.
And yeah, so after we get into the quarters, this is where the plot thickens a bit. Once we hit the High Priest quarters, because this is where Geoffrey and his lover Anilada, a monk of the same affiliation as Geoffrey, both of the Scarlet Brotherhood. This is where they await more Dramamo to awaken. This is the escaped slaver. So here there's a little bit of a twist, because Geoffrey was appointed to maintain this abandoned monastery for the slavers. But his lover isn't quite what she seems, for she is a succubus. And she's actually causing him to go evil. because he's actually lawful.
I think he was lawful evil, getting shifted. Yeah, lawful evil.
Right.
And she's pushing him towards neutrality or to chaotic evil.
Right. And because of this, he hasn't really been keeping the pirates and assassins under his command, and they've been kind of left to their own devices. Hence some of the disorganization of the resistance the players have met as they've been moving through. So, and then what they'll find is if they end up killing Jeffrey, and Nilda will basically beg and do whatever she can to, please don't kill me, I'll help you. He was evil and all of this, and give them a sob story, pull at their heartstrings, and just waiting for that opportunity to double cross them.
Yep. One criticism I've got here, and I don't mean to be too overly critical, but I would never put in a magic user without some type of bodyguard, some type of meat shield.
Right.
Because in general, the party versus one of anything, the party's going to win. But if he's got even first level fighters as meat shields, they keep the party off of him and it gives him a chance to unload on them.
Right.
That changes the quality of the adventure tremendously. And I'm looking at his spell level or his spell list. I could have a lot of fun with that. I don't think the party would feel quite the same way, but that's too bad.
Yeah. Yes, he's got quite the spell list to just really ruin a party's day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not to mention his own personal magic items as well. Wand of Lightning.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I would, if I'm running him, I'm going to use that Wand of Lightning before I do anything else. Because what do wands take by the book? Is that like 3 segments?
Right. So as soon as they open the door,
blam.
Yeah.
And again, I would have a guard outside the door so that there's no way the party could surprise him. There'll be an altercation outside. He hears it. And then things get ugly. That would make it a more interesting. I mean, if the encounter's too easy, that's no fun for the party either. If they just, romp through everything, but every good fight.
Yeah. I would almost say maybe the battle in the Great Hall made enough noise, if it went long enough, that Jeffrey became aware.
That's a good point. It's hard to fight a couple hill giants and not make some noise.
Right. Yeah, it's not like these rooms are in that far apart. So, yeah, you could totally just say, oh, he was aware of intruders via that battle, much like the assassins in the other room were alerted. So, and also I'm also thinking the point of this encounter wasn't so much the battle with Jeffrey, but having this succubus join the party. I'm almost wondering if that was more of the point.
I would think so, because it gives you a chance, you, the DM, to do some interesting things. Interesting from the point of view of, what's that old saying, oh God, we're going to die? That kind of interesting.
Right. There could even be a situation where one of the players is in dire need, and she's right there. She could help him, and she's like, nah, never mind.
Yep.
So.
I'd also want Jeffrey to be able to escape.
Right.
I think it would be much more entertaining for the party to try to continue searching through this whole monastery with him organizing resistance, finding all the pirates who haven't been killed yet.
Right.
And stick them on them, and with Jeffrey doing sniping. Never thought of sniping with a Wand of Lightning, but yeah, I think that would work nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and he actually does have a polymorph self spell, so that makes a perfect means of escape.
Mm-hmm.
You could just, poof, I'm now like a rat, or I'm now a small little insect. And he just flutters off.
And then Monster Summoning 3.
Yes.
You can do lots of cool things with that.
Right. Yeah, that hold person. Protection from normal missiles, so they're not going to be able to rain arrows on him. Or you could just go cast invisibility. Poof, I'm invisible now. Or mirror image. I mean, there's lots of ways if you want to keep him alive, he can keep himself alive.
Or if you can get alone with one of the PC's friends.
Yes. which would just be even more interesting considering he's controlled by a succubus who he then controls one of the party members.
Yep.
I don't know. My party players they never would buy the succubus in joining the party. They don't trust me. Anybody they find in a dungeon, they don't trust them. They don't let them in. Yeah. But I suppose if you played it right, you could convince them. Yeah. Especially if you had like Paladin in the party or somebody who, wanted to kind of protect her. So.
Right. Especially considering you have that whole slaver background. She could even pass off, he was holding me against my will, they captured me, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she's just a slave.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So...
It's funny, we're a little bit negative on this encounter and a few others, but this does the one thing it really absolutely needs to do, and it's got us thinking. We're coming up with some really cool ideas as to what we could do with what we're given here. And again, since it's a module, I'd like to have the author toss out some ideas, again, for DMs that aren't as inventive. But again, for us, this particular encounter is working wonders.
Right, yeah, it's capturing that old school feel because that's how the modules back then were written. They didn't spell everything out. A lot was left up to the DM to make it their own adventure. And the fact that we could have a 5-minute conversation on one room of this, just saying all the different ways you can spin the story, is a great thing.
Yeah, and Jeffrey's a good example of a character that I like to, like you said earlier, Brian, is... if he can escape, there's so much more you can do with him. And maybe not just even in this adventure, but maybe he escapes entirely, and now you've got a whole new separate problem to deal with down the road.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big believer in long-term enemy NPCs. And they don't have to be all that tough to be dangerous.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Although this guy, 10th level magic is there's nothing to sneeze at, even if you're a higher level party.
Right. A few well-placed spells and your party's toast. So, once they get past the High Priestess quarters, then they go to the Underpriest quarters. And these are just abandoned rooms. And then it's just a bed, wardrobe chest. Termites have softened the wood. But there is something to be wary of. Due to the termites, there's a 20% chance the floor could give way. So, yeah, players need to be kind of tiptoe through this room. And if the floor does give way and they fall, yeah, they take 2d6 points of damage. They're 6th level, 6th to 9th level. Yeah, not a big deal. Except they fall into a pit of black pudding. So yeah, again, it builds on, this is a decrepit building. Because now all of a sudden they're going to be paranoid of stepping anywhere once they realize the floor is rotted.
And even if they don't land on the black pudding, when you start to see something like that, again, it raises that sense of fear in the player's mind. And I get this vision of a guy in plate mail trying to climb a wooden wall.
Yes.
Well, and it reminded me of how dangerous the black pudding is. I haven't used one in quite some time. I forgot it was a 10-hit dice monster.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And since it dissolves wood and metal, that doesn't bode well for your sword.
No. Yeah, if your fighter falls into that, yeah, he's going to end up naked. So, yeah. Yeah, just another thing that's just going to put the players on edge. And it just keeps building and building. The next room is the guest hall, and it's locked, and there's nothing really in there either, other than it's in poor condition, and the floor is rotting in places. It's not collapsing, but if they enter this room before the Underpriest quarters, that'll kind of give them a little foreshadowing of, maybe this floor could give way. So, and then we move into the penitentiary. This is where the prisoners were kept. And the Scarlet Brotherhood continued this practice once they took it over. And there were several sons of Caius roaming about this. So they were actually roaming the monastery, but instead of destroying them, Jeffrey decided just, I'll throw them in some cells in case I find a use for them. So, at that end, when the players... Yep, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the one thing I'd like to see in something like this is anything that's in the monster manual. I would expect everyone who's DMing to own the PH, DMG, and monster manual. Like with the Fiend Folio, a lot of people don't have it, so it'd be nice to have a little bit more description of anything that's not in one of the 3 primary books, just so in case the DM doesn't have it. Yes, Son of Kais, that's Fiend Folio, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to have that. Again, not 100% essential, but it'd be nice.
Right. But again, this is a monster that the players probably aren't going to recognize off the bat. So, and it says plus they're also trapped in cells too. So they're not really a threat to the players unless the players agitate them and they start trying to hammer their way out of the cell doors.
Mm-hmm.
Can't the Sons of Kaius shoot those worms too?
Oh yeah, they have the worms that come out of their flesh.
So that could be the players think, oh, well, they're in the cells, they're not a big threat, we can kind of wander around in here, not a big deal, and all of a sudden, worm crossfire.
Right. And they also have fear, too, so some players may just walk in, see them, and go running in terror.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, and then so once we get out of the penitentiary, we go into the Gaylor's room. This is where the Gaylors lived when the monastery was active. Each one was worse than the last, and the worst of the bunch still lives here, as it's put. This room has a chamber features a cot, a chest, and other accoutrements, shuttered windows, and then there's a corpse lying on the cot in the fetal position. And the players are probably going to investigate, which they shouldn't, because it's a coffer corpse. So, yes. The last Gaylor was so cruel and evil that the demons left his soul to rot inside the flesh and spread suffering on the material plane. So, whenever a player gets within 5 feet of it, it jumps and attacks. And this is something that can only be hit by magical weapons. So, it's only 2 hit dice, but again, at 6th to 9th level, they should have magical weapons, but for that player that doesn't, they're going to have some problems.
Yep. They're a nice, it's a different take on a zombie. Again, a lot of players, the way I describe it, would mistake it for a zombie, but it's a little bit more active and it's not slow.
Right.
I found that you don't have to make big changes. If you take a zombie, okay, by the book, they're slow.
Yeah.
If you make one that's fast and make that change, no change but that, the average player is going to go, whoa, and they're going to expect a George Romero zombie.
Right.
Oh my God, don't let it bite me.
Yeah. Yeah, just throwing a little twist on those old stale monsters causes the players to just really freak out, because all of a sudden you showed them something that they expect the outcome and then just spun it around, and all of a sudden what they thought was familiar isn't.
Yep.
And then
those little changes, well, again, it's making, as we talked about earlier, making it fresh and new.
Right. And then this also has the first temptation for the players as well, because under the cot is a chest, and all players love opening chests. It's a chest with 4 buttons. But it has a trap. And the chest fires a poison dart as a 10-hit die monster if a player triggers it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. And this is one of those save or die traps as well. The character hit takes 1 point of damage and must make a saving throw versus poison. A character who fails the saving throw dies in a turn. So, a little bit harsh, but definitely fitting of a first edition module.
Yep. And I like the fact that the death takes a turn, because in real life, poisons, in the movies, you get stung by a scorpion, you turn green and die. It doesn't quite work that way. It's actually a lot nastier.
Right.
And I think it's more if the player or the character just dies, okay, he's dead, everybody moves on or whatever. But when you've got a character that's slowly failing, it gives keeps it in everyone's mind. It's a little bit more exciting.
Right, and this also gives them a small window of reprieve too. If they can figure out, oh no, what happened? Oh, he's poisoned. They should hopefully have a cleric that can cure the poison by then.
Yep.
Well, it ramps up the drama too, because you can, the figurative hourglass, the sand slipping away. You've got one turn to, if you don't have a cleric right there, what are you going to do? Try to figure something else.
Right. And plus, the players don't know, are they just getting progressively sicker? They don't necessarily know they're going to die either. They just think they're getting weaker.
Right.
So maybe at first they don't realize, they're like, okay, you're poisoned, shrug it off, we'll keep going on. Then as you get weaker and weaker, then maybe it's too late when they finally realize, uh-oh, we should have dealt with this as soon as you got hit. So after they get stung with this poison dart, they go on to the deck. This deck extends out, just offering a big view of the cove and the ocean. So you can kind of see what the monks would have looked out as the ships approached at sea, and when they summoned giant sea monsters to attack ships, as shown in the one painting earlier. Here, though, they'll also see some wasp nests hanging from the corner, and the occasional wasp coming out.
I take exception to the last line here that reads, ordinary, harmless wasps make their nest here. Wasp nests are never harmless.
No.
Actually, in D&D terms, I would be tempted to come up with a ruling that, like, for every, 5 hornets or wasps that sting a character, they lose a point.
Right.
And have clouds of them, and just for the drama.
Right. Or you could even have maybe have them make a Constitution check to see if they're allergic.
Ooh.
All of a sudden, their eyes start swelling. It's getting a little harder to breathe. It's not so much that they can't keep going, but now they're like -1 or 2 to hit because their eyes are swollen so much. Or they lose a little bit of constitution until they heal up just from the increased inflammation.
Yep.
And just a way to add a little twist to something that seems rather innocuous, especially considering, we already saw the giant wasp. These little ones mean nothing. Well, yeah, if you get stung by them, yeah, still could do some damage. And then after the deck, we have a nice rope bridge. And the player should hopefully have figured out by now just running across pretty much anything in this monastery is a really bad idea. Because this rope bridge, they can move. If they move at half their normal rate, they'll cross it no problems. Move faster than that, there's a 10% chance of a board breaking, at which point they must make a roll versus saving throw versus death magic or fall 100 feet below. So yes, another... Watch your step trap. And yeah, if they do watch their steps, then they get attacked by wyverns. If they haven't already dealt with the wyverns earlier in the adventure.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and that's another area where I'd like to have a little bit more guidance. The wyverns attack when you're on the bridge. What does it do? Again, as a DM, I'd look at that and I said, well, okay, that's going to increase the chance of you breaking a board. Maybe, make a saving throw every round to see if you break a board or not.
Yeah.
But for the DMs that aren't used to making stuff up like that, I'd like to see more guidance.
You're right. Yeah, or what happens, say the wyverns attack and they miss and they hit the boards. Maybe they start breaking boards and all of a sudden players now have to jump across gaps on the bridge. Just to add to, they could either do battle with these wyverns on this rope bridge that's falling apart, or they can try to hop across dodging wyverns and get to the other end of the bridge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just another way to add a little bit of drama, because this bridge spans across the main shoreline onto a little island. And on that island is where there's what's called the Anchoret's Perch. This is an island that the monks came to seek quiet and distance themselves from the activity. So basically when they went to seek their inner selves. And there is a nest on this island made of trees and rocks in a circular shape. So, of course, the players will investigate because ends up this was the nest of the wyverns. So hopefully you've already dealt with them by now. Otherwise, if they find you coming after their nest, they're going to be even more ferocious.
That's a good stack of treasure in there. I'm looking at the treasure for Area 30. It's a good stock. It's definitely worthwhile trying to cross that bridge.
Right. But you cross the bridge, you get all this stuff. Now you have all this extra weight to cross the rotting bridge. I would maybe even, if they try to lug the thousands upon thousands of coins back across the bridge, increase that 10% chance up a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get everyone to think about it.
Right. Yeah. They look at the gold, look at the bridge, look at the gold, look at the bridge. At that point, they're like, what? Maybe we can tame one of these wyverns and fly it across.
Or do something with a rope where you got everything bagged up heavily and run a rope across. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do here, but the whole idea is player creativity.
Right. Maybe you can tempt them to use that rotted rope they picked up earlier.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
Yes. They think, oh, we got this 50 feet of rope we found earlier. Use it. They think that rope was put there to get across the bridge. Not really. They find the bridge is probably sturdier than the rope. But once they get on the island, though, there's the shrine, and then basically rain, wind, termites basically reduce the shrine to basically a shell of its former shelf. It's falling apart, and this is basically kind of like a base the players can use. There's nothing, once they're in there, nothing really going to bother them. They can basically kind of catch their breath on this island.
I usually like to give the players a couple of places where they can find, as long as they use good sense,
right, they
can safely rest, and this one fits the bill there. Although if the bridge breaks while they're over there, it makes them even safer.
Right. And then at that point, they're going to need to get kind of creative to get across. Fortunately, the water isn't too deep that they could swim across. I mean, it's only about 20 feet, but if you have all that gold or your armor.
Well, according to the rope bridge section 28, it says the water is 100 feet down. So they would have to get down 100 feet to the water to swim across.
Right, yeah. They have to go down a nice little slope. So that could be an adventure upon itself.
Mm-hmm. Good place for player creativity.
Totally.
Although, yeah, I'm looking at the map again. I've actually got 2 copies of the PDF, so I can have the map in one screen and everything else in the other. And according to the map where the bridge is, it looks like it's pretty steep, straight down. Yeah. But the rest of it, the party could work their way down and then work around and then swim over to the area where they first came up. Although the rules there had something to do, if I recall correctly, sea snakes.
Yes.
Which again, from a sadistic DM point of view, is just entertainment.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's very much a pick your poison type scenario. Okay. Oh, and so now we move back to the main part of the monastery as we go into the guest room, and this is just adding more flavor. This is where the visitors would be able to stay, and it just reeks of mildew, and you can see where there's plush carpet on the floors, and the furniture's toppled and smashed. So just more of that. Something happened in this room to destroy the furniture, and it just wasn't left to the time to rot.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's to a meeting room. You got yourself a large wooden table with tapestries on the wall, and then this is where the Scarlet Brotherhood agents embedded in the monastery. This is so they base how they infiltrated the monastery and was able to take it over. And another thing in this module, it also gives you value to like artwork. And because if you want to take the tapestry, it actually tells you what it's worth. Because there are those players that like looting everything, including very large, bulky tapestries.
Yep. If it's not nailed down, take it. If it is nailed down, take the wall with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we go on from there. We have the Haunted Hall. This is a hall that earlier mentioned that no one really goes into. I wonder why.
For good reason.
Yes. Because once the mines were emptied and the priests prepared to abandon the monastery for a more profitable area, the slaves created a revolt. They took down the high priest and killed the high Templar. But before they were all killed, the spirits of the murdered villains linger here as specters. So again, it gives you more of the backstory of there was a slave revolt, and the slaves actually did kill their evil masters. But, of course, evil masters don't go away so easy. So now they infest this hall. So enjoy your 2 specters. Hope you don't get energy drained too much. Yep. And then
the next couple of areas, the windowed rooms in the hall, were skimpy detail. But again, at this point, I'd say you've had running it as a DM, you've got enough flavor that you could wing it.
Right. It's just more, it's setting the scenes for this was a real place at one point, so you need a kitchen, you need a pantry, you need your just little window watching room. I mean, then you have then of course, once you get through all that, you hit your dining hall where you have 9 pirates and 3 assassins again.
Yep. I just gotta love it. It's like they just copied and pasted that. I mean, and the hit points are all the same, the levels are all the same. I'm a little... That kind of irks me. Now, previous encounters, well, you look at the specters, the 2 specters have different hit points, and there was a couple other previous encounters where they had differing hit points, but here they're just cut and paste.
Right.
Just sliding back briefly to the kitchen and pantry, the one thing I really like about this is they've got a cold room.
Yeah.
Again, my dad was born prior to the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. And he talks, about stuff when he was a kid, and you had the ice room in some places where you would get the big block of ice or multiple blocks of ice, and it was all packed in sawdust, and that was your refrigerator. And they've got that here now. That's just kind of nice flavor.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's making it a real place, like throwing in the laboratory. It's making this real. It's making it livable, as opposed, so that way players won't be asking, so how did they actually preserve food? I mean, it's just little touches like that bring the whole building to life. So, and then once you get through the main dining hall, then you have the private dining hall, and then this is where the high-ranking members of the monastery, and it just more of the same. You have bone candle holders. We're just setting the ambiance. Wall hangings depicting faceless slaves at work, some puddles of water on the floor where there's holes in the roof, just setting that eerie setting once again. And then we move on. We have servants' quarters, and they'll see a couple skeletons in this room. And unlike other things they find, other bodies they've seen laying in beds, these skeletons won't attack them. Albeit you could have the skeletons attack them if you want, but this is one where after having the coffer corpse jump at them, they're probably going to be a little leery of approaching the skeletons at first. So you planted that seed of uncertainty in the players, and that's a good thing. So, and then we go on, we have the Hall of Labor Eternal, and just more murals of showing laborers at work. And then, if they really look, they start seeing that the workers were zombies. So, because at one point in time, the high priest turned many of the slaves that had died into undead thralls.
I love that detail.
Right. Yeah.
It just reinforces the fact that this adventure, I mean, regardless of some of the criticism we've had of it, this is just well executed.
Right. You cannot knock the backstory of this module. I mean, there's just so much detail and so much you could spin off into other adventures. You could throw in some undead thralls in certain areas if you wanted to add a little bit more to it. So you'd be like, oh, those were the slaves that that were died and were brought back. So it's just nice little touches. And then there's the library, at which point the players are, of course, going to rummage through all the books. But most of them, they're going to be useless because, you see, they got infested by bookworms.
I've never, ever seen anyone use bookworms before. I like it.
Oh, I do too. Especially if, say, the magic user decides to take a book with them. Or just anyone who, or like a cleric that has a religious tome with them. Or I would even say if you have some maps rolled up in your back. The bookworm's going to eat it. Yep, so it's going... Yeah, so just a nice little touch. And the players aren't going to expect bookworms. Yeah.
Then we get to the center of the adventure, the clone.
Yes.
Again, I like this. They've got it set up. If you get there before he's ready to... when he's fully finished or if he's only half finished. Just a little background. I don't think we've touched on the fact that the cleric, is it Mordramo?
Right.
If he was killed previously, what we're dealing with here is a clone. So it's in the process of growing. So even if the big bad guy has already been killed, well, you're going to have to kill him again.
Right. And if he escaped, it says just scrap the clone stuff and you're fighting the real one. Because it also mentioned they have 48 hours from the time they first get to the monastery before this clone is actually birthed. So if they take too long exploring this place, instead of having the clone still in the process of growing and having penalties to its hits and saving throws and
half hit points and half spells,
you'll actually be fighting the full powered Mordramo clone. So that's something that will be unknown to the players, but just adds to that ticking clock of you don't want to dilly-dally. So if the players decide to go poking around a little too long in the mines, looks like the clone's going to be at full strength when they get here. Yeah, and then he's got quite a bit of nasty stuff with him. He's got the +2 footman's mace, bracers of AC 7, a Tron flask is his possession because the flask holds a pit fiend. So, yes. And he intends to release the creature in exchange for it granting his wish. So basically, he's going to barter with a pit fiend and say, hey, I'll let you out if you bring back all the slave lords and put us back in power.
Now I'm looking to see if there's any stats on the pit fiend, and I'm not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it either, so I don't expect that they intended for him to release the pit fiend. However,
Go ahead.
However, if the players were taking too long to get there, I could see them walking in on the middle of the barter. He just released the pit fiend, and he's in there trying to barter the, hey, I let you out now, grant the wish of the slave lords.
And you got to consider, if you got a 9th level party coming in here, he's pretty much on his own. And as I mentioned earlier, you got one bad guy versus the party. The bad guy's probably going to lose.
Right.
I would want, for a 6th level party, I'd probably run it more or less as it's written here. But if you've got a 9th level party, he needs some backup. And I'm going to say a pit fiend makes one heck of a backup.
Oh, yeah.
And if it starts gating stuff in.
Yes. At that point, it becomes, what do we deal with first, the pit fiend or Mordramo, who at which point will probably flee. Mm-hmm. So at that point, the bad guy still escapes. Mm-hmm. And then you could build another story off of that.
And let's say you've got Jeffrey and Mordramo both out there in the wild. They could be antagonistic towards each other. Mordramo thinks that Jeffrey didn't do what he was supposed to do. Jeffrey could think any of a number of things. So you actually could have a 3-way fight without the party knowing that it's 3. They think it's just 2.
Right.
So they could actually have 2 groups going after them, and they don't realize it's 2 different groups.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's just lots of different ways you can spin off this story. And then just looking at Mordramo's spells, I mean, he's got some nice little stuff in there. I mean, he's got his hold person, animate dead. I mean, I could even see like maybe there could even be some other bodies, maybe some failed clone attempts of some of the other slavers too. Why would he be the only one with a clone? Maybe they were trying to clone the others too. You don't know.
Very true. Now it makes sense that he doesn't have a whole bunch of magic items, but it looks like he's got one weapon, the bracers, and the iron flask. It's one of those things where I'd almost want him to have something else that would be a surprise.
Right. But I guess the thought was, since he's the clone, he's not going to necessarily have like the best stuff that Mordramo had, especially if he died. Now, if he escaped into Slave Lords, I could totally see giving him a lot more stuff.
Although he's got the iron flask, so it looks like Mordramo was prepared for the worst to happen.
Right.
Again, you can go either way on it.
Yeah.
But again, a competent DM is going to look at this and say, well, based upon my party, I'll do X, Y, and Z.
Right. Do you up the cleric, or do you just pop a pit fiend?
Yep. Pop a pit. I like that term. I want to keep that.
Yes, we're popping pit fiends. And then lastly, there's also the Garden of the Dead. After the high priest died in the slave uprising, the surviving clerics drove his zombie thralls into the gardens and left them there.
Okay, now that would work for, I mentioned, having some heat shields. Instead of having the zombies out in the garden, Mordramo could have the zombies, or some of them, right there. And again, for a 6th or a 9th level party, the zombies aren't a major foe, but again, all they have to do is slow the party down while he's doing his thing.
Right.
And it changes the encounter tremendously.
Yeah. Or perhaps if he flees towards the garden. So that, knowing there's this massive wall of zombies there. Just enough to slow the players down. And then, there's a lot, or maybe the players stumble upon the zombies first, and they don't quite know why there are 24 zombies there. Again, they should slay them fairly easily, but still. Hordes of zombies are always fun, and they can be, especially if you can surround a player with them. And then we move on. We got the Vault of the Dead, and this basically jars hold the ashes of the dead, and you can just find names written on the various jars of the person, with also a little crude likeness drawn on as well. So it's just a little more flavor that showed there was a lot of death that happened in this monastery. So, so you can just, and then also there's the inner vault. So because not everyone was cremated, and
I like the idea that you got the heavy sarcophagi, and party's going to waste a lot of time here digging through trying to find something.
Right. Yeah, and there's really, unless they have not dealt with either the ghost or the specter, they're not going to find anything. But if they haven't dealt with them, they pop out of this sarcophagi.
Yep. Then you get to the crematorium. I love it. It makes perfect sense. You got a crematorium. What are you going to use? Fire elemental.
Yep.
Of course, it has to be insane.
Of course. It has to be insane in this type of place, because they're probably burning people alive.
That and the fact that it's been away from its home and it can't get back.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that line in there. It will try to burn the monastery down.
Right.
I got this great vision of the party running crazy through a burning monastery.
Yes, and the wood's already rotting and decrepit, so you have the floors collapsing because other parts are on fire, walls falling down. Especially if they, depending on the order in which they find things, maybe they find it after they're chasing down Mordramo, and then they stumble upon the crematorium, and now the monastery's on fire, so they're trying to find the slaver while trying to not die from a giant flaming building. I had something kind of like that happen in a game, my home game. I was playing Castle Amber, and they completed it. And instead of having the tomb of Stephen be in a different dimension, I just put it underneath Castle Amber. So that way, when Castle Amber started rotting and collapsing to the ground once the curse was lifted, they had to flee through it. So you can have all kinds of fun with that. Just dodging things. Yeah, the floor in front of you is on fire. What do? Do you try to find another way and waste more time, or do you run through the fire? So, again, just another little thing you could toss in.
Yeah. 48 has got to be the most interesting thing I've seen here. You've got a high priest who is a secret acolyte of Asmodeus or Asmodeus, or I've heard like every pronunciation for that, but either way. So you've got a cursed book and a chalice.
Yeah.
I'm going to have fun with that.
Totally. I mean, especially considering the players, if you don't have a cleric with you, maybe they don't fully recognize it's Asmodeus. So they'll be like, they'll think it's related to the Cult of the Earth Dragon, or it's related to the Brotherhood or something. No, it's something far more insidious.
Yep. I ran the Forgotten Temple of Thurisdan a few years back, and one of the characters touched a few of the tainted items. So what I did for a while was every night when the character dreamed, he would have interesting dreams that encouraged him to slaughter the rest of the party.
Yeah.
And without, there's no game mechanic there. You just start, whichever PC touched the book, they start having that dreams like that. Or sacrificing their party members or something like that. You don't need to do anything. You just, make the player wonder, okay, what's going to happen?
Right. Why am I all of a sudden I'm having these dreams?
And then, maybe come up with a mechanic. So if they don't do something to try to stop the dreams, like appealing to their deity or something like that, maybe they get a little closer to actually doing it.
Right. Yeah, that's where like the Ravenloft checks could be useful. Steal some of those mechanics. Because you just get tempted to go to the dark side. Yeah, and then so once you're in this hidden shrine of Asmodeus, we go to the dreadful gazebo.
Down to the Grimlock tunnels.
Yes.
And again, this is a great... now, one of the things you'll notice with a lot of the adventures we publish in Ad Magazine is there will be a section at the end called Loose Ends or something like that. Yeah. And we try to toss out ideas on, okay, where are you going to go from here? What's left open? Right. And this is an absolutely wonderful loose end.
Oh, yeah, because there's nothing here other than there's a 10-foot wide pit that goes into the darkness. And you can make a whole adventure out of just traveling through those Grimlock tunnels. And then tie that into, and you could have this tie into the mines, and yeah, there's just lots you could build off of it. There's a lot of good hooks in this adventure.
Plot hooks, that's what a lot of people call it.
Yes, lots of good plot hooks.
Andrew on our team, he always calls them loose ends.
Loose ends, yeah. Which there's quite a bit, especially depending on if you who escapes the players in this adventure. So you could have all kinds of loose ends. Far more than you wouldn't know what to do with if you're not careful.
Yeah. And then, what's next? Conclusion?
Yeah.
I was extremely disappointed. There's 3 paragraphs of conclusion here. And they basically tell you, okay, the adventure ends when the characters defeat Mordramo. And I guess I'm an old school gamer because my first thought was, huh? Yeah. No, it ends when we decide it ends.
Right.
So, but again, I think they're writing it more from a later edition point of view where it seems like the adventures are more like a block set as opposed to open-ended.
Right.
And while I look at this and I go, huh? I don't feel bad about it.
No.
I just, had to point it out.
Right. It does throw out a few ideas if Mordramo escapes, it says that he's heading to quarters in cauldron. It's a small city built inside the caldera of a dormant volcano. So you could build off that way. If not, and so if they follow him, they can do a battle within there. Otherwise, maybe you could respawn the slave lords after a few years of him being left alone. So
a lot of good ideas here for where to go with it.
Right.
Now, this is going to sound funny coming from an AD&D player, but I like the 4th edition conversion guide.
Yeah.
I think it's just a generally good idea. I have absolutely no hate for any of the other versions of D&D. I don't play them, but, I don't care. If someone was DMing 4th edition, I'd probably try it just for the heck of it.
Right.
But I like the idea of just including everything in here and this gives 4th edition players an interest. They're going to read this module and they'll look at it from a hopefully different point of view. And again, it may pull people back to AD&D. And even if it doesn't, they can get some use out of this.
Right, because it has stat blocks for 4th edition of all the monsters, including some of those Fiend Folio monsters that haven't appeared before.
Yep. I mean, I'm looking at the list here. I've got we're looking at the PDF.
Yeah.
And I've got a large 23-inch monitor, and the menu of bookmarks for all the monsters fills almost to the entire screen. They got a boatload of stuff here. They did, a pretty extensive job.
Right.
So from that point of view, I would have liked them to have provided more stats for the uncommon monsters for AD&D, but again, their focus is going to be more on 4th edition,
right?
Because that's their biggest selling point. One thing, the one reason I think any of us AD&Ders or 2nd edition or even OD&D who could all make use of this, the one reason to buy this module is to send a message that there's a market for this.
Right.
And I don't run a lot of modules. I find it actually takes me more time and effort to fix a module to run in my campaign than it does to just write it from scratch. Mm-hmm. That said, I've got a shelf of old modules I bought back in the 80s, and I've got literally gigabytes of modules that I've downloaded off the net, tons of them from Dragon's Foot, a lot of other places. Right. And I look at them, they're thought-inspiring. Right. They're idea factories. And I can see this one. I'm already looking at this map, and I want to use this map.
Right. The map's great. I mean, the map is great, and I think that is what players and DMs need to realize. What modules I think were more in they're there to spark ideas. They're there to spark things in your campaign. I blatantly will take something from one module, then and if I put this from another module and blend it all together and make it my own. And with any module you run, make it your own. Don't feel like you have to do everything as it is written. Put your personal touch to it, and that's what makes it really special.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm looking at this map, and I'm looking at the write-up. And again, I've had a lot of criticism of it, but I'm nitpicking it. And again, that's what we're here for, is to nitpick it. But I'm just seeing so much good stuff here, so much good thought, good ideas. I give this module a thumbs up.
Yeah, I do too. It's definitely worth looking into. It builds on the Slave Lords, but you could run it without running the Slave Lord series. You don't have to go through A1 to A4 to be able to use this. I mean, with a little bit of flavor change, you could easily just remove the Slave Lords entirely and just have it be some other menace that fits better into your world. Yeah, so don't hesitate to change it up a little bit and make it your own. And because there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Pick your favorite big bad evil guy. That's Mordramo. The party kills him off, and then they discover in some way, shape, or form that he may not be quite as dead as they thought he was.
Exactly.
And you could just come right in here and you run the same thing.
Right.
Just change the name to protect the guilty.
Yeah. Totally worth looking at. And again, I'm just thrilled they're actually still making new first edition modules. It shows that that the reprints, I guess, are going well enough that it's worth their time to actually make new content.
Mm-hmm.
This is available only through their Dungeons and Dragons Insider monthly subscription, unfortunately. So it's not like you can just go out and buy this module by itself. But the way that works is you could just dip in for a month and just download all the old Dungeons and Dragon articles and just mine them, and you don't necessarily have to keep it month to month if it doesn't interest you. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. And I'm also now curious to see what else they come out with.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully they'll realize that there is a sizable... Well, the fact that they came out with this... Well, go back to the reprints of the core books last year. I think the response to that demonstrated that there is a market, and it looked to me like Wizards was testing the waters to see, okay, how important is this? And now they're reprinting a lot of other stuff, and they're finding that there's one heck of a market here that they failed to tap.
Right. It's like putting up all the old PDF products on DriveThruRPG.
Now, the one thing I liked is I purchased some years ago... I did not have a copy of the Fiend Folio. That had belonged to my brother, and I didn't have it. So I've been living for years without it. And I picked up Manual of the Plains, Wilderness Survival Guide, and Dungeoneer Survival Guide. And the scans were decent. But I got an email 6 months ago, maybe, or a little bit less, that said, hey, you purchased such and such. And I think it was the Manual of the Plains. And they said, we have a fresh scan. Since you purchased previously, it's yours. So I logged in, and sure enough, I was able to download it.
Yeah.
So they're recognizing that there's a market here, and the new scan was a lot better. It was properly indexed. It wasn't just a garbage scan.
Right. Yeah. They've actually done a really good job on creating the PDFs for the new this time around on DriveThruRPG, because they were a little like previously, it's like they stuck some intern on it, just said, here, go scan some pages and throw them up. These, they actually put some effort into making sure they were high quality, making sure they were bookmarked and searchable, and really good stuff.
There's definitely some good stuff out there. Yeah, I like this. I need to spend some time and write up my version of this. I'm probably going to keep a lot of the details. Mm-hmm. I run a high... my party's a little bit higher level, and I run a high magic campaign, so I need to jack some of the encounters up. But again, keeping some of the encounters relatively low in terms of power, just to, psych the party out. Or psych them up, and then they discover something's a little tougher than they thought.
Right, yeah.
But this has really done a lot this has inspired me.
Right, yeah, just really good stuff. I mean, it's... new product, but still has that old school feel, and I think it makes a good continuation of the Slave Lord series.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely a good job. Yeah.
So with that, I think anyone out there who may have actually also have read this module, write us in at rfistaff@gmail.com or call our hotline at area code 570-865-4210. Our kobolds are standing by waiting for your calls. Let us know what you think of this module. Has anyone out there actually ran this? We'd like to hear what you have done, or maybe any changes you have made to this. So anyways, with that, I think that we'll call this a show. It's been a pleasure having you on, Brian.
Thank you much. I was glad to be here. This has been a wonderful discussion. I've really enjoyed this.
Yes, as did I. And I'd like to send a shout out to DM Kojo. Unfortunately, midway through, he had to drop off to tend to some family stuff. But all is well with him. So we thank for having him on and look forward to getting his voicemails in the future.
And I saw a notice online a few minutes ago that Vince was online, so it looks like he has recovered from his car troubles and made it home.
Yes, he finally made the trek back home, so hopefully all is well on the automobile front with him.
Earlier in the show, I'd mentioned that we were looking for some people.
Yes.
And the one thing I forgot to do was give everybody our website.
Yes, definitely do that.
AndMag, AND-MAG.com. And if anyone with submissions can send it to submissions@and-mag.com. Okay. And Nikki asked me, she said, as long as we're asking for things, she would like a pony.
A pony. Okay. We will.
Nikki is our publisher.
Yeah. Okay, we will put that request out there, and I'll also have the links and email address in the show notes as well for over at rfipodcast.com. So if you have any ideas or stuff you want to submit to Ann Mag, go right ahead and send it to them. Submissions at Ann Mag. And then, so with that, we will wrap things up. And everyone, keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everyone.
Have a good one.
Roll for initiative.